them metaphorically don't need to speak, because viewers, the weapons, the very possession of those weapons do the speaking for them. So any armed forces member who threatens nuclear war, you have to look very, very carefully at where the individual is coming from. Quite clearly, viewers, he needs to amplify propaganda, because the reality is very different. And the reality was exposed by India. Remember, viewers, though the Indian government and the armed forces have denied it, we did target, and now we have enough material to show that we did target nuclear weapons facilities, storage facilities rather, in Pakistan, giving Pakistan the scare of its life. And we will be assessing this threat a little later on in the show tonight with Tom Cooper, who is the world's #1 military analyst. And when you hear him speak, you will understand why this individual on your screens, to the right of your screens, this pretend tin pot dictator, viewers, is rattled. But nonetheless, let's just focus for a few moments on what he said. Now, he was speaking in a closed-door function in America, in the land of Donald Trump, who is today positioning himself as a messiah of peace. But on his soil, on this messiah of peace's soil, viewers, Munir, speaking to his own Pakistani-American diaspora, was waxing eloquent about his capacities and about Pakistan's capacities, saber-rattling, like someone who was completely out of touch and out of tune with what went on just about 3 months ago, viewers. He said, we're a nuclear nation. If we go down, we take half the world with us. We will wait for India to build a dam and then strike it with 10 missiles. Indus River is not India's family property. We don't have missile shortage. He also, viewers, tweeted a surah-filled verse and Mukesh Ambani to show them, threatened Mukesh Ambani to show them what we'll do next. All of this, viewers, makes very little sense to anybody who is a serious student of military strategy. And viewers, after having made this comment, not only has General Munir reduced himself to a laughing stock in strategic circles, but there will be question marks all across global capitals on this man's state of mind. People will wonder if he is actually fully there and competent enough to lead a nuclear weapons state. Viewers, New Delhi moved swiftly to condemn the threat, declaring it would never submit to nuclear blackmail. And viewers, we have been the only country, it's absolutely unprecedented, to take up arms against another nuclear power. And not only that, but engage under the nuclear threshold very responsibly and completely debilitate the capacities of a nuclear weapons power. Not America, not Russia, not even the Soviet Union, viewers, has ever been able to accomplish what we've done. The Chinese haven't even come close to this. So India's statement was very sharp. They said nuclear saber-rattling is Pakistan's stock in trade. International community can draw its own conclusions on the irresponsibilities inherent in such remarks. We reinforce well-held doubts about the integrity of Pakistan's nuclear command, and remarks from a state where the military is hand in gloves with terror groups amount to nothing much except for an exhibition of callous warmongering. In fact, viewers, New Delhi doesn't need to break a sweat. Nuclear weapons or no nuclear weapons, Pakistan was given a veritable thrashing by India in the recently concluded 4-day war, brought on, mind you, by a dastardly state-sponsored, Pakistani state-sponsored terror attack, planned in Islamabad, executed on Indian soil. Operation Sindoor was India's response and saw India inflict heavy damage in an unprecedented exhibition of inflicting punitive costs on a nuclear-tipped adversary below the nuclear overhang. Viewers, as I told you, Asim Munir has gone out and said what he said. But viewers, if you look at the facts on the ground, they don't amount to very much. His threats, that is. He says, we're a nuclear nation. If we are going down, we'll take half the world with us. The fact is, India exposed Pakistan military during Operation Sindoor. India's nuclear arsenal outmatches Pakistan's warheads. India has shown punitive action below the nuclear threshold, disabling Pakistan on the ground. All its airfields were disabled. It could not, even if it tried, to launch a nuclear weapon. Viewers, we had them that exposed. No wonder the DGMO of Pakistan picked up the phone on the 10th in the morning and started frantically calling New Delhi. Asim Munir has come out and said, we will wait for India to build a dam and destroy it with missiles. The Faxai S-400 and Barak 8 defenses neutralized Pakistan's missile threats, viewers. They were in no position to launch. Even if they were, they wouldn't know where to hit because they didn't have the capacities to look into our country. India's BrahMos and Agni missiles ensure devastating counters because India has developed a very potent second strike capacity. We also have a nuclear triad. We didn't even engage the Navy. There would be hell to pay if Pakistan would even try nuclear adventurism. Asim Munir says Indus River is not Pakistan's property. We don't have a missile shortage. What are the facts, viewers? India's upstream position gives it strategic leverage. If you do demolish dams on our side of the border, you're opening yourself up for floods. You'll be washed away. A majority of Pakistan's economy depends on the river. 90% of the waters feeding Indus Basin in Pakistan come from within India. Their economy will be wrecked. They won't have a grain to eat or food. And viewers, their country will be deluged. And under that will also be, of course, a wasteland. It will be the end of the Pakistani state. At least the part that controls the rest of Pakistan. We will see state disintegration. But more crucially, India also, viewers, and this is very important because we're going to be talking about this on this show. India critically also fired a diplomatic shot across Washington's bow, expressing regret that the US chose to give a platform to such reckless rhetoric. The MEA statement said, regrettably, these remarks should have been made from the soil. It's regrettable, rather, that these remarks should have been made from the soil of a friendly third nation. We made it clear that India won't give in to nuclear blackmail and will continue to take all steps necessary to safeguard our national security, unquote. The optics are especially stark for Donald Trump. On one hand, he's publicly angling for a Nobel Peace Prize, burnishing his image as a peacemaker, getting countries to propose his candidature. He's also, viewers, credit snatching, where ceasefires don't exist, or where he had zero role to play, like between India and Pakistan, for instance. And he is, on the other hand, literally rolling out the red carpet for a nuclear warmonger whose record is steeped in xenophobia and conflict. You remember, viewers, the nasty poison he exhumed this General Munir just before the Pahalgam attack, where he said that Pakistan is the caretaker of the Muslim way of life and we will eviscerate India because they are kafirs, infidels. He was speaking like, viewers, a radical preaching to his flock in Taliban-controlled or Al-Qaeda-controlled Pakistan, Kandahar, what have you. Viewers, this contradiction erodes Trump's moral authority. The fact that he has chosen to host and legitimize this individual. For the free world, the episode is a reminder that Trump cannot credibly claim to champion peace while indulging leaders who normalize the language of annihilation. And let's open this up, viewers, for an honest conversation tonight. We have with us Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, former GOC, 15 Corps of the Indian Army, who is a very well-known expert. We have with us Taha Siddiqui, who lives in exile. He's a Pakistani journalist who lives somewhere in France, and I don't want to divulge where exactly. We also have with us a former strategic affairs analyst, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, senior fellow of the IPCS, and Ankush Bhandari, Indian-American citizen, who is favorable to the Trump regime. And we, of course, have with us Syed Zafar Islam, BJP's national spokesperson. I want to first begin with Taha Siddiqui. Taha Siddiqui, thank you for joining us. I know there's a threat to your life, and this is very, very difficult for you to do. So we really appreciate your taking the time out and joining us. But a very quick question, Mr. Siddiqui. Where do you think General Munir, this field marshal, is coming from? Why is he making these silly comments? I mean, they're very petty comments because they certainly don't carry weightage.
Thank you for having me, Rahul. In fact, I think this is in line with what you said earlier. Also, you know, when Asim Munir did that, General Asim Munir did that speech, hate speech rather, in which he talked about Hindus and Muslims not being able to live together and sort of demonizing India. We've seen that that was his first sort of public, posturing to be anti-Indian. We know that the Pakistani military thrives on the perceived or this sort of manufactured threat from the other side of the border, which they themselves, create through cross-border terrorism. And I think Asim Munir has had very two difficult years before all of this sort of thing happened with the Pahalgam attack. The military was at its lowest reputation. Everybody was calling out the military, and even during Pahalgam attack, and then after the India-Pakistan conflict, there was questions raised on the military. So I think this is his sort of way to build the military's reputation, which has been lost over the last many years because of its political interferences. It's being exposed in different places, and it's trying to sort of distract and get back its focus by bringing in this threat of India and this rhetoric on India. And I think the military, a military chief saying something like this, I think it seems that he's trying to build his reputation through this and nothing else, nothing more.
So, Taha Siddiqui, how many people in Pakistan will actually believe it? Obviously, there is an intelligentsia who has seen the proof of what India has done. It's visibly marked on the soil of Pakistan. There are images, satellite images. In fact, Abhijit Iyer Mitra has been one of those in the forefront, bringing those images out through his sources in various different agencies that supply materials such as this, that track Pakistan closely. So we'll come to him in just a few moments. But I want to ask you, how many people will actually believe this General Munir?
The issue is, Rahul, that in Pakistan, there is this, what we call the narrative building that's very strong. We have a country which is micromanaged by the ISPR, which is the military media wing. The media is micromanaged by them. The politicians are micromanaged by the military. And so that's where the narrative building comes from. And I even with the Pakistan-India conflict, this sort of losses that Pakistan had, direct attacks against Pakistan military bases and then against the terrorist infrastructure, all of that was completely ignored and painted in a very different way. So, unless and until there's not access to independent media, and how would you have independent voices or independent, narratives building in the country when there is so much of clampdown on journalists, on press freedoms? So I'm not sure the issue is of anyone believing him or not, but rather having access to information, because they do not have access to other kind of information. And the local media, local politicians, the local ecosystem feeds them always these sort of narrative building lies where India is the enemy, India is the aggressor, India is the problem.
India is the aggressor, India is the problem. It's very controlled, therefore it's very difficult for Pakistani citizens to look over the parapet, so to speak, and see the facts for themselves. Okay, just stay on with me. I want to open this up. General Pandey is here with us, and so is Abhijit Iyer Mitra, before I bring in the rest of the panel. General Pandey, I have to ask you this, because India seems to have obviously disregarded this. We've expressed our regret that this person has been given a platform in America. So I'm going to ask you a couple of things. Number one, how credible is this threat that is being issued by Munir, especially after what we have seen over the 4 days of Operation Sindoor? And secondly, why is America suddenly giving this individual so much play?
Yeah, so firstly, I'll answer, just make a statement, don't give cherries to pigs and advice to fools, And I think you said tin pot dictator. Munir is technically not a fool, but surely he doesn't need our advice. Couple of things which is happening, that Americans are surely not fooled, right? And they must now be understanding that they have been played by Munir. Because when Munir gave a speech, he had a different script which was placed on the table, and suddenly he went off the script and he spoke out of the script and he quoted this verse and thereafter talked about destroying half the world in case he is going down. So I think Americans should now realize that they were trying to play, thinking that this chap is going to be under their control. They will whistle and he'll come running, which he does. But he is a known deceiver who's deceived his own country to rise where he is, right? And his survival. So now the second thing which comes out is how credible it is. Please understand that Munir's survival is on radical rhetoric. April 16th, when he spoke of this division of Hindu and Muslims, they are two different people, and that rhetoric which was on, he did not realize that what will happen after what he did in Pahalgam. And once Operation Sindoor happened the way it happened, his survival further has got endangered. In case he doesn't pitch more higher in a shriller voice, his survival back home is going to be very difficult within the army, within the radical elements, and more importantly, within the saner elements, right? Because they are likely to call him out that how far are you willing to go? Now, this begets the question that what should the American and public Pakistanis do? When somebody comes and grandstands and makes a statement that I'm going to wipe off the next half of the world, I think Americans need to take a call. That is the Nobel Prize of Trump going down the chute, right? Or they need to take some corrective measures and actions to put this gentleman into place. The second is the Pakistanis need to also take a call now and ask Munir, all right, you will destroy half a world, you are radical, but by the way, we all don't want to die, right? When you carry out this kind of a strike. So why are you making this radical statement? Frankly, as a military professional, I don't think there is much weightage for him to carry out such a strike. Neither the Americans nor the world, and surely we have already showcased our capacity and capability. Okay. We will not allow something of this nature to happen.
Well, we wouldn't have engaged. We wouldn't have engaged. We wouldn't have engaged with Pakistan after Pahalgam had we not been sure of our own capacities. We know that we were dealing with a unstable nuclear-tipped neighbor, so we wouldn't have, obviously taken on that risk. But we did because we obviously better prepared, General.
The issue is, we have got enough capacity before we talk of our second launch capabilities and capacities, Yeah. I don't think we'll require it because we will ensure that his nukes don't take off at all, right? That is one thing I can try and assure on your channel. Yeah. But I also want to advise Munir and a lot of Indians, more importantly, Pakistanis. There are 3 Indians who have led Pakistan. Okay, just see the statement I'm saying. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who came from our side of border. Yes. He led and thought and said he's going to destroy Bharat. Right? He was hung by the man who brought him into chair, right? Who was brought to the chief by Ziaul Haq. Ziaul Haq also sought to do the same thing and did everything in his capacity, but himself died in exploding mangoes situation. Zulfikar's daughter, Benazir, also did the similar thing, right? invested so much heavily into anti-India stuff. She was killed by her own stooges.
Yes.
And then now comes Munir, right? He also belongs to Jalandhar, technically belongs to our part of the border. And he's leading his nation to next set of destruction.
Okay, well,
And we know where it will go.
let me bring in Abhijit Iyer Mitra. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, first of all, will America take the call that General Pandey hopes that it will? Number one. Number two, is Munir really speaking to a domestic audience to burnish his flagging credentials, or is he making a play for a bigger job, which is perhaps become the, well, you know, the de facto president or the dictator, or stage a coup or what have you?
So, Rahul, see, we need to understand what Trump is doing with India now is, of course, what Trump was also doing with the EU and Russia. See, he was cozying up to Russia and saying, Putin's my dear friend, let's make a deal and this and that. And he cut loose the EU.
Yeah.
Ostensibly for, restoring military funding and things like that. And it worked with the EU. They all went begging bowls in hand to DC and were transported in a public transport bus to the signing ceremony and things like that. Humiliation achieved. Now, he makes the mistake of thinking that India will also fall for that kind of thing. I think Trump's biggest problem on the one hand is he confuses tactics for strategy. Good luck to him. As far as the American viewpoint goes, he's certainly acting within the American interest set. He wants more, he wants allies and whatever to pull more weight. Congratulations to him. It will work with others. With India, that kind of an attitude doesn't work. You flatter us and cajole us, you'll get everything from us. You talk down to us, you'll get nothing from us. That's how we've always been. Number one. Number two, Asim Munir's speech really betrays how fearful he is. Remember, countries only keep threatening nuclear war when they have been extremely vulnerable, extremely exposed. It is not in the nature of a victorious and powerful country to go around threatening nuclear war.
True.
He anticipates defeat, and that is why he's threatening nuclear war.
So-
what is the subtext? You don't use nuclear weapons when you're winning. You use
course.
nuclear weapons when you're on the brink of defeat.
Yes.
So in a way, he's admitting defeat. He's admitting.
So now where does that leave Trump? President Trump, his recent benefactor Ankush Bhandari. Mr. Trump calls himself a man of peace, but is giving a huge wide berth to a man of war and somebody who's threatening nuclear war on top of that.
Thank you, Rahul, first of all, for inviting me. And first, we have to understand the context why he did that. If you ask me, 90% of the Pakistanis who live in America don't support a military dictator over there.
No, 1 second. Mr. Bhandari, I'm not talking about Munir. I'm talking
Yeah,
about
let
Trump
me come
now.
to your point.
Since you are somebody who has pitched his tent in the Trump camp, I have to ask you this question. Do you support Mr. Trump even now? Or do you believe that he is actually playing a very dangerous game with a country of your birth, perhaps, or your origins, and is betraying India and has lost all moral authority in this particular last 2 or 3 weeks?
No, I don't understand how India treats this as the burning the bridges. India and America has very strong relationship.
No, Mr. Bhandari, I'm sorry.
Okay,
You tell
let me
me.
come
You tell
in.
me.
Let
No, just
me come-
1 minute.
come
No,
to the
you please tell
point.
me. Burning of the bridges. We are not saying burning of the bridges. We are astounded. Our statement is we regret. It's regrettable. It's a regretful situation that this individual is being given a platform by America. And there are people, American leaders, who are challenging Trump today, saying he's ruining Indo-US relations, which have been cemented for 35 years. How can you not see that?
So that's what I'm saying. If you let me speak, Rahul, then only I can put my points, right?
Yes.
If I get disturbed every 30 seconds, how can I speak up? What I am saying is, whatever Trump is doing, Trump is here only for the 4 years, okay? Yes, we supported Trump, and we still support Trump because we are here. He has America first policy, like India has India first policy. Now coming to the how we can handle that when he give the platform to that guy who speaks so much bad about our country of birth. we always say India is our first motherland and America is our second motherland,
Yeah.
right? And we want a good relation between both of them.
No, Mr.
India is our
Bhandari,
Janmabhoomi, which is our Karambhoomi,
please take a more morally enlightened position. आप क्या बोल रहे हैं? You are living there. I understand you have your loyalties there, but for God's sakes, have you forgotten your own mother? Have you forgotten your own mother? Are you today ready to sell your mother for this moronic person, this general who is standing there and threatening to wage war against your mother? Is that what you're doing, sir? For what? What are you getting out of this? 1 minute, let me bring in the BJP. Sir, how will you take this up? How will you take this up at the intergovernmental level? Is this going to become, sir, a matter of now disputation between India and the United States? A person who is threatening nuclear war on India is being given a platform by a so-called ally. Where does that leave the Quad, for example?
Rahul, you are spot on. We are extremely disappointed with the way he has been given a platform. He is mentally challenged, behaving like a terrorist, behaving like a suicide bomber, not like an army chief or chief of army staff. Having said that, we are very surprised and astonished that how he has been getting a platform in United States by Trump administration, even though Trump has always was very outspoken when it comes to terrorism and to deal with terrorism. India has been fighting with terrorism, and globally we have made our we have made us heard that we are against terrorism. There is zero tolerance policy we have, and Pakistan is a country which is nurturing terrorism. Still, we have been given support by European Union during Operation Sindoor. We were given support by UK. We were supported by France. But America, who has experienced 9/11, yet the way they should have supported us,
what are you going to do about it, sir? What are you going to do about it? That's my question. What are you going to do about it? How far will you take your protest?
No, we know exactly how we have to behave in a situation like this. Our relationship with US is important, will continue to be important, and we will nurture it the way without compromising the interests of our nation.
I'm going to leave you viewers to think about this. We find ourselves in a piquant situation, and our government must now call the Trumpian bluff. Has to do it. And viewers, we've already called the Pakistani bluff. What will it all amount to? Does this person have the capacity to even lift a finger against India after what happened and after we exposed Pakistan completely as a power that is quite effete, impotent to use a word, viewers, militarily? Let's talk to Tom Cooper. No better voice in the world than him to analyze right now the situation between India and Pakistan militarily. Viewers, over the weekend, the IAF has come out with dramatic revelations. The Air Chief himself fronting those revelations against Pakistan, suggesting that the Indian Armed Forces, in particular the IAF, had inflicted heavy, very heavy damage on the PAF or the Pakistani Air Force. Viewers, the claims have sparked a massive debate and a conversation in strategic circles and military circles, because these claims put India in a rarefied orbit of nations that have been able to inflict damage on a nuclear power under the nuclear overhang, and suggest that a completely new paradigm has been written in military maneuvers. And to speak and analyze this very important claim, revelatory claim made by the IAF, we have with us Austrian aerial warfare expert. He's globally renowned. His name is Tom Cooper. And I want to begin by asking you, Mr. Cooper, first of all, thank you very much for joining me, because you seem to be quite vindicated. In the very beginning, you had talked about the dramatic steps that India had taken to inflict a heavy toll on the Pakistanis. Now the IAF chief has revealed that 5 Pakistani fighters and 1 large aircraft, I'm quoting him exactly, were down during Operation Sindoor. How does this change our understanding of the operation's scale and intensity compared to what was publicly known in the immediate aftermath just about 3 months ago?
Thank you very much for inviting me. Nice to be with you. Well, from my point of view, it changes very little because it was obvious almost, well, at least as of the morning of 10th of May, that India is in possession of major advantage vis-a-vis Pakistan. But publicly, obviously, there were lots of people at least skeptical about this, if not having their doubts. Therefore, when meanwhile, retired Air Chief Marshal comes out and says we have shot down 5 Pakistani aircraft just by air defenses, then this is, of course, a very strong expression of self-confidence and confirmation of success. Of course, it is nice to be confirmed, so to say, to have initial assessments that nicely confirmed. But overall, the work is going on, from my point of view, because what is important now is to obtain the details on every single of these shutdowns and to find out the reasons. And this is going to take a little bit longer. For the wider public, this is less interesting. For the wider public, it's important the results, and the result is clear. Not only in terms of success, in terms of defending India from Pakistani UAV attacks and missile strikes, but also in terms of defending India from Pakistani Air Force, from aircraft of Pakistani Air Force, and shooting down not only a few of them by ground-based air defenses, but also destroying quite a number on the ground inside Pakistan in the well-protected air bases. So this is something that is a little bit different to earlier wars. At earlier times, Indian Air Force had only aircraft with free-fall weaponry. For example, in 1965, 1971, it had to fly its own hunters, its own Mystère fighter jets to Sargodha to bomb the runway or to strafe enemy aircraft on the ground. Nowadays, it's doing so from within the Indian airspace with long-range air-to-ground missiles and striking much more precisely, much more effectively. Of course, it's a new feeling in India because you haven't had this kind of superiority in earlier wars. I mean, this kind of obvious superiority. You haven't had a situation where Pakistan was armed with nuclear weaponry and you still managed to disable this capability or this potential capacity to hit back on India. So some are calling this
in some ways, Mr.
Pakistani
Cooper,
bluff and so on, but yes, sorry?
In some ways, Mr. Cooper, not many countries have actually had this level of success. I mean, here we have 2 nuclear powers. So this is quite unprecedented, isn't it?
Okay, let's be more precise in this regard. Nobody did this before. It's as simple as that. You have disarmed Pakistan's nuclear arsenal de facto. You have brought Pakistan so far that they have concluded that they cannot deploy this nuclear arsenal that they have against India with any degree or hope for success. That is what I said already in the morning on 10th of May. Okay, it was already afternoon your time. But that is what has been confirmed now as well. You have hit, or your armed forces have hit Pakistan so well and so precisely and so heavily that this potential, the Pakistani potential of nuclear strike was nullified, zeroed. It was brought to it. Actually, Pakistani armed forces were brought to their knees. That's the point. That is why I called it a clear-cut victory already then, because Pakistan wouldn't have called and sounded for ceasefire without India delivering really massive volumes of punishment, even if actually striking just under apostrophe just some 40-50 selected spots in Pakistan. But this was enough. This was enough to make it clear to Pakistani military leadership that they are actually, if they continue, they are going to end up defenseless, and the entire system of Pakistani armed forces controlling the politics and economy, the society in Pakistan is going to collapse from within if they continue. And this is why they have sounded for ceasefire eventually.
India's air chief credited the Russian-made S-400 system for part of the success.
Yes.
Now, from your analysis of regional air defense capacities, what does this say about the S-400's integration and effectiveness in the IAF doctrine compared to indigenous systems? Mr. Cooper.
Well, one thing where there is a major difference between what S-400 can and what the rest of Indian integrated air defense system can or cannot is the long range. India has its own weaponry or weapon systems with similar capabilities or even better capabilities than S-400 under development, but they are not available yet. They're not in serious production. They are not in operational service. But the delivery of S-400s from Russia has given India this capability of striking Pakistani aircraft over 300, 308, 312, some say even 315 kilometers outside of Indian airspace. That is the difference. You have a very strong, this is now confirmed. This has been confirmed on 8th, on the 9th of May in particular, during the night from 9th to 10th of May again. You have very strong, very capable, very well integrated air defense system. There is no denial about this. But without S-400, you couldn't reach 300 kilometers deep into Pakistani airspace, and that is the difference. So now, some are automatically misinterpreting this into S-400 was a kind of wonder weapon and doing it all for the Indian air defenses. It wasn't. It was just keeping the Pakistani Air Force at bay in many of situations, and B, on the other hand, it was enabling Indian ground-based air defense systems to make so-called ambushes for Pakistani aircraft like Saab 2000 AWACS aircraft, through suddenly redeploying their firing units very close to the border, within range of Pakistani Army's artillery, fire 3 or 4 missiles over a range of 300 kilometers, shot down. I'm quite sure that it was shot down, that they shot down a Saab 2000. It was around 50 kilometers, I think, west of Sargora. Mm-hmm. And then withdraw before the Pakistani artillery can hit back. And that's enough. In air warfare, you have such situations. You strike a specific type of target, and you de facto ground the entire enemy air force, or at least force it to operate 300 kilometers or more away from your border. Perfectly enough. You don't need more. Why? Because they know if they get closer than 300 kilometers, and in conditions like, especially on 9th of May, when Pakistani Air Force started losing situational awareness, which means they started losing the picture of where is Indian air defense, ground-based air defense deployed, where are the S-300s, where are barracks, where are spiders, where this, where it is, where is that. They have lost this picture. They couldn't regain it because Indian Air Force was striking their command centers, their own radars, their own intelligence gathering facilities. It was diminishing their capability to follow the development of the battle, to follow electronic emissions of the Indian air defense. And from that moment onwards, you are blocking the enemy air force. You are forcing it to remain somewhere west of Sargodha, and that's enough. From that distance, Pakistani Air Force cannot operate against targets in India. And it's, they could have 2,000 aircraft and 2,000 F-35s or B-2s, but they would be absolutely useless because they cannot get close enough to India to hurt India. And even when they did try, several times they did try, for example, that was during 8th of May, they have tried several times to hit Amritsar, to hit, Jammu. They have tried to hit Bathinda and similar places, but especially, I think it was Udhampur.
Yes.
They were really heavily striking Udhampur, or trying to strike Udhampur. But the mass of their weaponry was fired or released from such long range that the Indian air defenses have had the time to detect them on time, to prepare themselves, and to shoot them down. They didn't shot down everything coming their way. They were shooting down something like 90%, even over 90%, but it was enough to make, in grand total, to make Pakistani long-range strikes ineffective. And that's what matters. In grand total, it meant India can strike whatever it wants to strike in Pakistan, and Pakistan cannot hit anything really useful inside India except building used as a local, ambulance in Udhampur.
Yeah.
So in warfare, you don't need more. You don't need more to win a war of this kind. Why? Because when you have to consider the warfare in terms of phases. And this was the first phase of war. India disabling Pakistani air defense system and striking selected targets inside Pakistan. In long terms, several days longer, this would mean that India would become capable of striking and causing ever more and more damage to Pakistan. Not only to the air force, not only to the air defenses, but also to the Pakistani army. That would in turn make Pakistani army absolutely unable of defending the country at one point of time, and then in the further unable of keeping the country under control, maintaining its control over the country's politics, economy, and so on. That would in turn mean a complete collapse of Pakistan. You would have so many circumstances inside Pakistan. The country is falling apart into several parts and several factions, and each is fighting the other, of course with AK-47s, but having nuclear facilities in the back, and so on and so on. So you don't want to have such a situation. New Delhi is aware enough to say we don't want Somalia on our borders, or 250 million people with dozens of thousands of crazed jihadists. We don't want this. So better we stop. Pakistan has sounded for ceasefire. So okay, we are satisfied. Very nice. Let's stop before we go too far. Thank you very much.
So you think that the Pakistanis had been reduced to a point where striking back, going up the escalation ladder would have been very difficult, and maybe they would have reacted under existential threat in an unpredictable manner, in a dangerous manner?
Much more than this. I said that already, what was that, on 10th or 11th of May. Then, and it was obvious from the video showing strikes on Pakistani underground nuclear storage facility at Kirana Hills. Then India, led by a government, traditionally, it doesn't matter who is in charge in New Delhi politically, but you always had very cautious governments, at least when it comes to foreign policy and warfare. Extremely cautious governments, even reluctant governments, not only conservative, but reluctant to do things under post office, things, to take steps which would be necessary to silence Pakistan, for example, whether in 1999 or at earlier times, or later. But you had reluctant government, and correspondingly you had a very reluctant top leadership of your armed forces. They were always constrained. They were indoctrinated to be cautious, overcautious. And so when they start striking Pakistani underground nuclear storage facilities, then it's absolutely clear that they are not afraid of Pakistan targeting India with nuclear weaponry. This is why I've called it a clear-cut victory, because at that point in time, this strike on Kirana Hills made it absolutely undeniable that India is in position of superiority vis-a-vis Pakistan, and that Pakistan cannot strike back on India with any hope of success, not even with nuclear weaponry. So you have a unique situation. That's why I'm telling you, you don't have this in any other war, anywhere else. This is the first case of this kind where one nuclear power disabled the nuclear arsenal of the other nuclear power. Pakistan could have had 10,000 nukes in its storage depots, but it couldn't deploy them. You know what I mean? That means it couldn't put one of the bombs on one of its aircraft or one of its ballistic missiles and deploy it against India. Why? Because it would either be being destroyed on the ground while still in the process of being loaded on an aircraft or the missile, or it would have been shot down over India by Indian air defenses. At least there was a 90% chance of this happening, which is, from Pakistani point of view, unacceptable. Imagine a Pakistani nuclear weapon being shot down over India, coming down, crashing inside India, then being captured by Indian armed forces and inspected by them. I mean, this would be, I cannot describe what kind of a catastrophe, not a humanitarian catastrophe, not an environmental catastrophe, but political and strategic catastrophe for Pakistan this would have been. Correspondingly, they opted to stop. And this is why at 9 o'clock in the morning on 10th of May, Pakistani Director General of Armed Services made a call to New Delhi. Oh, shall we make a ceasefire, please? We don't want to continue. This is the point, and this is absolute precedent in the history of warfare. This has never happened before. You have never had before a situation where one nuclear power is disabling the nuclear arsenal of the other nuclear power. India did so to Pakistan.
Now, there must be a combination of factors, but I want to focus a little bit on Pakistan's incompetence. Was it incompetence? Was it a matter of overconfidence, inadequate countermeasures, or being outmatched technologically? What was the issue?
Everything of this. It was all of this is resulting in lots of wishful thinking, which means Pakistanis have developed nuclear weapons, for example, but these nuclear weapons, nobody is really sure that they are working. So when they did their first tests, one of these bombs just half exploded, and they had to request the Chinese to send them one of their nukes, so to run a full-fledged nuclear test. And so they ran another test, and this was successful. So nobody's sure whether Pakistani nuclear weapons are really working. That's point number one. Point number two. For 20-something years, there's a persistent flow of reports, especially from the United States, from people who were in Pakistan, who have inspected the facilities, even some of whom have worked on these facilities or protected them, about poor security of these facilities. The security of some of these facilities is so poor that there were times when US Marines had to protect these facilities.
I see.
I mean, can you imagine nuclear weaponry?
Right.
The ultimate weapon of a country can have is protected by armed forces of some other country. I mean, it's shameful, actually. So all of this Pakistani nuclear arsenal, there was lots of questions about this, actually. Lots of question marks above it. But still, they were all the time boasting with it and drawing red lines. If India does this, we are going to nuke India. If India does that, we are going to nuke India. If India, excuse me for expression, farts, we are going to nuke New Delhi. What happens at the first opportunity? Indian government blocks the Indus River for Pakistan. This was a red line declared by Pakistani generals. Nothing happens. India strikes Pakistan in very clear fashion. Nothing happens. India strikes nuclear storage facilities in Pakistan. Pakistan sounds for ceasefire. So obviously, the capability of this arsenal or usefulness of that arsenal is non-existent. It just costs Pakistan lots of money because it costs a lot of money to maintain operational nuclear weapons. Just to keep them stored, it costs a lot of money. It costs lots of electricity. It costs a lot of, you have to keep them at specific ambient temperatures supplied by electricity and so on and so on. So all of this costs lots of money, but for no gain at all. Pakistan is a nuclear power that actually is in possession of nuclear weaponry, nuclear warheads, but cannot deploy them effectively.
So let me ask you, because just
big deal,
today,
So when you ask me what is then, it is a mix of all of this.
Okay, so I must ask you this because
themselves into being sure that they are super invincible or whatever else just because they have nukes and Indians do not dare doing anything.
Right.
This is thinking is absolutely insane, irresponsible.
So General Munir, who is their field marshal in America, he says that we will nuke and we will nuke India. And this, that, the other. Is he bluffing? Can it be done? Is he bluffing, or is he just overhyping a capacity that doesn't exist?
What Pakistanis always understand very well is the PR work in the West. The importance of PR work in the West, especially in the United States. And at earlier times it was UK as well. So they would go to UK, when they're still going to UK and doing that, and pay Western journalists, British or American, to report positively about Pakistan. So you have, for example, a journalist from UK, very prominent military aviation journalist. He's already for is it, 15, 20 years paid by Pakistan to lavishly publish reports about Pakistani Air Force. They bring him to tour air bases in Pakistan. He can take photographs of almost everything, or at least everything the Pakistanis want to show, and report, this is Pakistani squadron, so and so, and this is Pakistani fighter jets, and this is Pakistani weaponry, and their pilots are so well trained and so great and so fantastic, and Pakistani Air Force is super turbo, Wunderwaffe, whatever. And this is what they do. And also they're doing the same in the strategic level, which means at the level of Munir. He goes over to Pakistan and he understands that especially Trump's government is very sensitive about presenting itself as power broker and deal broker and whatever, and successful peacemaker. So it is important for him to say, we are going to nuke this, we are going to nuke that. And if India just does this, we are going to nuke them as well. And then again, and reverse and nuke them once more, because he knows that in that case, Trump is looking even better or can position himself even better in the public and say, look, I've prevented Pakistan from nuking those wild Indians over there. How great am I? Such a cool boy, better than Obama. So this is how it works. It's primitive. I mean, it's absolutely absurd, nonsensical, stupid, call it whatever you like, or whatever you want, or they are doing in the public. I'm calling it this way in the public, the way it is. Primitive to the bone, but it is how it works, and what works in Washington. And then Washington says, Pakistan is, or Trump, his administration says, Pakistan, look, what great allies they are. Give them the medal, give them F-16s, give them MRAMs, air-to-air missiles, give them whatever they want, and support them, please, as well. And don't forget to declare them the most important allies in the war on terror. It's a simple equation in a world where Western politics and strategy in general are degenerating by day, literally. It's absolutely pointless, empty statements on both sides, but who cares? It's great TV.
It's great TV. So it's great PR, great TV, but there is absolute no capability to underline the claim. So I just want to assess this once more with you, Tom Cooper, finally, before we let you go. I want to understand how quickly can Pakistan get back on its feet? It says that it can attack us in the future very soon, so don't mess with us. Is it been deterred? What is the issue here?
Let me just return a little bit back to the last thing we were discussing before I answer this question. Imagine yourself in a position of being a statesman, top statesman, where prime minister or president or whatever, the guy in charge politically of a situation where you order your armed forces to strike a nuclear power. Would you gamble and order such a strike without being sure that the other side cannot hit back up on you? This is the answer to this question is all you need to know about relations between India and Pakistan, at least since the morning of 10th of May. You don't need more. And regarding your question, how long is it going to take for Pakistan to recover? Pakistan is financially bankrupt. Unless financially supported by Qatar or somebody else, it's going to take it years to recover from this blow because it has lost some of most expensive equipment and weaponry it has ever obtained, including, for example, this mobile integrated air defense headquarters destroyed at Nur Khan Air Base. I mean, this costs a fortune, really, to just to manufacture, not to talk about train the people operating such a system. And excuse me, but Turks are not really of the kind who are going to provide this for free tomorrow in the morning just because Pakistan was stupid enough to position such a facility in the middle of the base without any kind of fortifications around it so the Indians can strike it better. And then the Indians, as satellite photographs have shown it, have smashed it to pieces, literally. I don't know how many dozens of people, highly qualified Pakistani strategists and tacticians have been killed over there in that case alone.
And that's a wrap from our primetime studio presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions. Thank you for watching.
Presented by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Electoral role without due notice and a reasoned order. Rahul Gandhi has launched a fresh attack on the Election Commission, alleging that 300 opposition MPs were blocked from meeting the poll body, calling it a fight for the constitution and the principle of one man, one vote. In retaliation, the BJP has dared Rahul Gandhi to provide evidence of fake electors. BJP's Kiran Rijiju has accused the Congress of lying repeatedly.
कांग्रेस पार्टी और अपोजिशन ने बहुत समय बर्बाद कर दिया है। अब हम देश का समय और पार्लियामेंट का समय को और बर्बाद होने नहीं देंगे। तो सरकार महत्वपूर्ण बिल को पारित करना चाहते हैं। आज हम इम्पोर्टेंट बिल्स दोनों लोकसभा राज्यसभा में हम पारित करेंगे। एक आदमी का नासमझ और एक परिवार का वजह से देश इतना नुकसान नहीं झेल सकता है। पार्लियामेंट को रैंसम में नहीं रख सकता है। ऑपोजिशन के भी कई एमपीस ने आकर के बताया कि वो मजबूर है, उनका नेता ज़बरदस्ती हंगामा करने देते हैं। रोज रोज एक मुद्दे को लेकर के पार्लियामेंट का समय बर्बाद करना, ये हम लोग इस तरीके के जो समय बर्बाद करने के लिए देश का समय और संसद का समय बर्बाद करने के लिए हम नहीं देंगे। इसलिए महत्वपूर्ण बिल हम पारित करेंगे।
देखिए, हिंदुस्तान की डेमोक्रेसी की हालत देखिए। 300 एमपीस इलेक्शन कमीशन से मिलना चाहते हैं और कहते हैं कि हम डेलीगेशन लेके आएंगे, हम आपको एक डॉक्यूमेंट देना चाहते हैं। इलेक्शन कमीशन कहता है नहीं, 300 एमपीस नहीं आ सकते हैं। तो यही हालत है, क्योंकि डरते हैं। वन मैन वन वोट के बिना कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का कोई मतलब नहीं है। और हमने क्लियरली दिखाया है कर्नाटक में कि वन मैन वन वोट नहीं है। और इलेक्शन कमीशन जानता है, इलेक्शन कमीशन जानता है कि वो उसका जो डेटा है वो फटेगा। जो उसको अभी वो कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, छुपाने की कोशिश कर रहा है, उसको हम निकाल देंगे।
आज स्पष्ट हो गया है कि राहुल गांधी जी सहित विपक्ष के सभी सांसद ना तो कोई चर्चा करना चाहते हैं, ना कोई कंस्ट्रक्टिव आउटकम में विश्वास करते हैं। इलेक्शन कमीशन को अपने संवैधानिक दायित्व को भी पूरा नहीं करने देना चाहते हैं। जो इन्होंने खुद ने अपने अपनी सीटों में लोगों को गलत रजिस्टर करा के वोटर बनाए, अपना झूठ, अपनी चोरी छुपाने के लिए शायद ये पूरा यहाँ पे नाटक कर रहे हैं।
देखिए, मेरा खत कल चुनाव आयोग के लिए सीधा था और स्पष्ट तरीके से मैंने कहा था, लिखा था खत में कि सभी विपक्ष के सांसद शांतिपूर्वक मार्च कर रहे हैं पार्लियामेंट हाउस से लेकर निर्वाचन सदन तक, और सामूहिक तरीके से सारे सांसद इलेक्शन कमीशन को एक दस्तावेज पेश करना चाहते हैं एसआईआर को लेकर। यही हमारी मांग थी। और मैंने कल दोपहर को चुनाव आयोग को ये खत लिखा था। अफसोस की बात है कि चुनाव आयोग, जो अभी चुनाव आयोग बन गया है, उस खत का जवाब नहीं देती है और अभी कहती है कि सिर्फ 30 सांसद आ सकते हैं। हमारी मांग थी कि सारे विपक्ष के सांसद सामूहिक ढंग से उनको एक दस्तावेज पेश करें। अभी हमें यही रोका गया है।
Today, Rahul Gandhi has started a full campaign on vote chori. He says all opposition MPs are marching towards election commission to protest against what they call as vote chori.
बॉस, SIR is happening in Bihar, not in Delhi, not in Bengal. In Bihar, have you seen anyone protesting in SIR? Any public outrage? People are happy in Bihar because all those names those who are died, who had permanently shifted, those whose names their names are there more than one places, then their name have been deleted. People are appreciating Election Commission effort in Bihar. I don't know the other places why they are protesting when the SIR is happening in Bihar. There is no issue in Bihar. That is one. As far as vote chori is concerned, that's what I was saying. He's good in hit and run. Say something and run away. He also said that Samvidhan khatre mein. What happened to that in 2024 election? Election Commission has done excellent job in Bihar. And if Election Commission is asking you give in writing, so what's the problem? Even as a public people's representative and as a party also, we take time, go to Election Commission, we give, if we have any issue in writing to Election Commission, and Election Commission take actions.
Dr. Tharoor, you have been stopped here, all the Congress MPs, opposition MPs to go. What is your demand? What is exactly what you want to tell the Election Commission?
Rahulji has raised some very serious questions. He wants serious answers. The nation needs the serious answers. And the reason the nation needs those answers, very frankly, is because the credibility of the election process is wonderfully vital for our democracy. As far as our democracy is concerned, everyone should be able to go to vote without having any doubts as to whether their vote is going to actually play a role in determining the country's political destiny. This is vital for everyone. It's also in the Election Commission's own interest. Their credibility should matter to them. So take the question seriously, give us answers. Do not waste time, frankly, on insisting on formalities like oath and affidavit, because at the end of the day, this is exactly what needs to be done.
Why do you think it can be a people's movement?
No, it has to be a people's movement because this is not about you or me. It's about the democracy of this country.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We start with Asim Munir's nuclear threat. The Pakistan Army chief spoke in the United States and threatened to quote-unquote take down half the world with nuclear weapons. He also said they'll destroy Indian dams. And what was Washington's response?